Chapter 2 Uncle Max 2 hours later, the party was in full swing. Quinn had 12 friends here, more than anyone needs, if you ask me. She's always jabbering away to them on the phone, always. First, there is her best friend, Bella, who doesn't even live in our town anymore. Her parents sent her away to some fancy boarding school, but she Skypes with Quinn every night, sometimes twice. Then Quinn has to Skype with everyone else she knows and report what Bella's up to and how she's wearing her hair now and whatever other completely pointless thing girls talk about. It goes on for hours, which is why I never get a chance to be on the computer myself, even though I have much more important things to do, like look up home accident report statistics and type up lists of safety tips, all in the name of keeping my family safe. But when I want to use a computer, Quinn just whines to Mom about it, and Mom takes her aside and says I have to stop worrying so much about statistics and safety tips. She says I should concentrate on making friends, like Quinn does. And if having a few dozen friendships is the most important thing, no, as if having a few dozen friendships is the most important thing. Friendship should be about quality, not quantity. And I have quality ones, 4 of them at the party today. Here, I'll list them in reverse order of importance. Number 4 and 3 are my cousins, Will and George. Okay, I had to invite them because they're my mom and my dad's younger sister. But no, because okay, there we go. Okay, I had to invite them because their mom was my dad's younger sister. That makes sense. But still, they're here, so they count. Number 2 is Eli, my best friend from school. Fine, he's my only friend. Like I said, it's about quality, not quantity. By the way, it's not true what Gwen said that Eli is my friend just because he's new and doesn't know better. He started at our school 2 months ago. That's not new anymore. It's certainly enough time to decide who you want to be friends with, and he's still friends with me. Eli and I would have more friends in school if the other boys in the 5th grade weren't such regs. Regs, noun. Kids whose parents wish they could give them back because they're such rotten eggs. Quinn only invited girls to her party, so thankfully there are none of the regs here. Though Quinn and her slame friends are starting to like the regs. I can tell by the way they giggle whenever the regs are up to their rotten tricks. Like when Newman, the worst of the regs, stuck a kick me sign on the back of Miss Skipnick, the cafeteria lunch lady. It's the oldest trick in the book, and it's not even a funny one. Finally, my number 1 friend who I invited today, Uncle Max. Uncle Max isn't really my uncle. We just call him that because he's known our family for so long. He knew Mom when she was a little girl, and he knew her father before that, and even his father before that. As usual, he's a little bit late today. He gets tied up with work stuff sometimes. He's so old you'd think he would have retired by now, but he says he likes his job too much to give it up. He's a consulting transponder, which means he's in charge of communicating signals to receivers. To be honest, I don't really understand what he does. I just know it means he has to travel a lot. But he wouldn't miss my birthday. Birthdays are important to him. Mine even more than Quinn, because I'm his favorite. Not that Uncle Max ever actually told me that I'm his favorite. In fact, he says Quinn and I are equally important to him. But isn't that just what an adult would say if he had a favorite and didn't want to go spreading it around? Uncle Max himself has told me you have to look beyond what people tell you. You even have to look beyond what they think is true, because sometimes they don't even know themselves. So I looked beyond, and it's so obvious I'm right, it's almost embarrassing for him. First of all, there are Tuesday and Thursday hangouts. Every week, without fail, unless Uncle Max has a business trip, he has standing plans with me. We go for long walks and talk about stuff man to man. He's taken me to an amusement park a bunch of times, too. Uncle Max is always trying to get me on the speed of light roller coaster. But do you know roller coasters kill an average of 4 people a year? It's true. I looked it up. That's why I prefer carnival games. You don't have to risk your life whooshing around in the air, and sometimes you can even win prizes. Quinn says she doesn't want to come to the amusement park with us. Well, good, Quinn, because I don't remember anyone inviting you. Second of all, Uncle Max always gives me a better birthday present than he gives to Quinn. Last year he gave Quinn a series of books about a girl living in New York City, but he gave me a weekend trip to the city itself. We went to the biggest toy store I'd ever been to, and we went to the Empire State Building, which is 102 stories tall. Uncle Max wanted to go up to the top, but I said no. It was too dangerous for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is the Empire State Building has a lightning rod at the top that gets struck by lightning 23 times a year. As far as I know, no person visiting the building has been struck by lightning. But it's not like you can predict where lightning will strike. That's why it's so dangerous, and it's better to stay on the ground and be safe instead of sorry. I told Uncle Max it would be just as good to stand on the sidewalk and look up at the building stretching high into the sky above us. He argued for a bit, but in the end, that's what we did. When I'd looked at it for a good enough amount of time, I turned my head to tell Uncle Max I was ready to go back to the hotel and get dinner, but he was gone. I don't know exactly how it happened. One second he was right next to me, the next he wasn't. I had to get back to the hotel all on my own. Luckily, I'd memorized the address, for safety reasons. I knew exactly where to go. I didn't talk to any strangers on the way. I just kept my head down and walked and walked and walked until my feet felt like they would fall off. When I finally got back, Uncle Max was in the lobby waiting for me. He didn't look worried at all. I knew you'd find your way, he told me, and he took me out for pizza. I don't know what Uncle Max had planned for my present this year, but I've been angling for night vision goggles. Sometimes at night, when after everyone else has gone to bed, I like to walk through our house and do an inspection. I make sure no one has broken in while we've been sleeping, and I double check that the front door, back door, and all the windows are locked. The problem is, it gets pretty dark in the hall, and I have to use a flashlight. 4 times Mom has seen the light beams under a door, and 4 times she's gotten up and sent me back to bed well before I finish my inspection. But if I had night vision goggles, I wouldn't have to use the flashlight. I'd be able to keep everyone safe, and Mom wouldn't have to know. I bet I get them since I've dropped about a bajillion hints. And what will Uncle Max get Quinn? Maybe regular swimming goggles. Maybe a case you can put your goggles in. So, even if most of the people in our backyard are here because of Quinn, and even if most of the presents in the pile by the back door are for here, I'm still excited. Or for her, I'm still excited. In the meantime, Mom has us do all sorts of games, like an ice cream cone toss and a water balloon relay, both of which are harder than they sound, by the way. There's a point system to the day. First place for each event is 10 points, second place is 7, and third place is 5. In the end, whoever gets the most points wins the trophy. What's the score so far? Quinn asks Mom. I haven't tallied up the points yet, Mom tells her. Did Uncle Max call to say when he's getting here? I ask. I hope it's never, Quinn says. Don't be that way, Mom says. I know Uncle Max is a tad eccentric. A tad, she interrupts. But he's an important part of this family, Mom continues. He's not even in our family, Quinn argues. You just call him Uncle because he was friends with Grandpa and the family has known him forever. But really, he's some random old guy. Are you guys talking about that man with the crazy hair and the wrinkles who came to watch the talent show last month? Quinn's friend Madeline asked. I'd had a harmonica solo in the talent show, which is why Uncle Max showed up. It's not like he cared about Quinn and her lame friend's choreographed dance. He looks like Albert Einstein. Yeah, but not so smart, Quinn quips. Just a nut job. You see, another reason why I'm Uncle Max's favorite, because Quinn is such a reg herself when it comes to him. I don't like saying this, guys. Shut up, I tell her. Zach, don't say that to your sister, Mom says. And before Quinn can gloat, Mom adds, and cool it, Quinn. We don't call people names in this family. Sorry, Quinn says in a voice that is not at all sorry. That's better, Mom says. I'm sure Uncle Max will be here any minute. We can do presents as soon as he's here, right? I ask. Mom starts to say yes, but then Quinn shouts, not if he gets here before the last game. Popcorn toss. Mom, I say. I begged her to take the popcorn toss off the schedule. Here's how it goes. You pair off in teams of 2. One person tosses the popcorn and the other catches it in his or her mouth. Then they switch. Whoever catches the most wins. But the problem is, if you catch a kernel at the wrong angle, it could get lodged in your throat and you'll choke. It's too dangerous, I say for about the 100th time. It's not dangerous at all, Quinn tells Mom. Zach just doesn't want to do it because he's no good at catching. Remember all those times Dad would throw the baseball and he'd drop it? I can hear Dad's voice in my head now. Shake it off, he'd say whenever I'd miss the ball. Remember who you are. You're the one and only Zacktastic. Now let's try another one. I like being able to hear Dad's voice in my head, but sometimes it makes me miss him even more. If Zach can't catch with his hands, how does he expect to catch with his mouth? Quinn goes on. It's not it, I insist to Mom. I'm worried someone will choke to death. Mom reaches forward to brush my hair off my forehead. She says she likes it better when she can see my eyes. The kids will chew and swallow one kernel at a time, she tells me, but you don't have to participate if you want to. If you prefer, you can count what everyone else catches. No way, Quinn says. He'll cheat. I'm not the cheater, I say. Anyone is a cheater, it's Quinn. I bet she made Mom include this activity because she knew I wouldn't do it, so I'd lose. Your brother can count, Mom tells Quinn firmly. And so it begins. I count and listen for the slightest cough. Eli counts too. I don't need his help counting, but he doesn't have anything else to do since he doesn't have a popcorn partner without me. So far, Madeline is winning. She's got 10 kernels of popcorn in a row now that Quinn is tossed to her. Now 11. Now 12. It's going so fast, I don't think she's really chewing and swallowing them. In my head, I picture all the kernels piling up in her throat, like a big popcorn ball that's getting bigger and bigger until it explodes. Next up is kernel number 13. I've always heard 13 is an unlucky number. I'm not sure why, but suddenly it occurs to me. What if the 13th kernel is the most dangerous one? Quinn pitches the 13th one towards Madeline. For a few seconds, time seems to slow down, so I can see it all happening in slow motion. Madeline tips her head back. She opens her mouth wider. The kernel is sailing through the air and into Madeline's open mouth. I can practically see it going down her throat, getting lodged in a bad place, blocking her windpipe along with those other kernels she didn't chew or swallow properly. My heart is pounding, but no one else seems concerned. Quinn is all set to throw the 14th kernel. No, I say. Zack, come down, Mom says. But Madeline is waving her hands in the air, signaling Quinn to stop. Her face is turning red. No, wait, it's not red, it's turning blue. Are you okay? Mom asks. Madeline, Madeline! Quinn runs to her side. So do the other kids. Give her space, I tell everyone in my sternest voice. And I guess because they're all scared, they do exactly what I say and back away. Madeline's face is purple by now. She's choking, no doubt about it. Luckily, I'd watched a YouTube video on how to do the Heimlich maneuver, so I knew what to do. I step behind her and wrap my arms around her middle, leaning against her and tipping her forward just slightly. The other kids and Mom are gathered like parentheses around us, but I pay no attention to them. I'm only concentrating on Madeline. I ball my right hand into a fist and position it just above where her belly button should be. Then I grab my fist with my left hand and press hard into her abdomen to try to force the popcorn out. Don't hurt her, Quinn cries. I push again and again and again. It takes 5 times, but finally Madeline coughs. I let her go and feel my whole body exhale as the offending 13th piece of popcorn pops back out of her mouth. Quinn rushes forward. Are you okay? She asks. Oh, yes, she's okay now, Mom says. But she sounds like she's trying to calm herself down as much as she's calming Madeline. She stepped forward, rubbing Madeline's back, and Madeline keeps on coughing. Out comes another piece of popcorn. Cough! And another. Cough! And another. Madeline? Quinn says, her voice quavering. It's all right, Mom says. As long as she's coughing, she's not choking any more. I know she's right about that because that's what it said on the YouTube video. As long as someone is coughing, their airway isn't blocked. You did a good thing, Zack, Mom tells me. I look over at Quinn, waiting for her to say good job too, or maybe even thank you. Bonus points if she admits I was right about the popcorn contest being a bad idea in the first place. But of course she doesn't. Meanwhile, Madeline coughs and coughs and coughs. Pretty soon there are dozens of kernels all over the yard. Lawn. It's the strangest thing, I tell Eli quietly. I only counted 13 when she was swallowing them. Me too, Eli says. Obviously there were more, Quinn says loudly. At least 100. She broke a record. I'm not sure about that, Mom admits. But look at the ground. Mom looks down, and I see her eyes widen at all the kernels peppering the grass like seashells at the beach. She shakes her head, but I can tell she thinks it's strange. Zack, why don't you get Madeline some juice? She says. I don't know why I should get the juice and not Quinn, since I'm the one who saved Madeline's life, and Quinn is the one who did exactly nothing. But I go to the side table with the balloon strung up next to it, and I swipe a juice box to bring to Madeline. She downs it in nearly 1